Did somebody say Dynamo? They sure did. Is this real? Is very real. This is very, very real, my friends. All right, so version 2.1.0 releasing January 17th, 2023. Aerospray MG, Aerospray RG. The size of terrain area inked by falling spray has been increased by about 10%. We have our Aerospray, right? When we shoot around, this area right here is buffed. Increased painting Aerospray, which means, unless they have adjusted the special counter for it, more Booyah Bomb spam, more Reef Slider spam, if that's the route you want to go. Jet Squelcher, reduced blur when firing on land by 17%. Like your spread just will be 17% less, I guess. An interesting change, not one that... I guess it probably is one that's needed, because if you don't have good accuracy with Jet Squelcher, then you're kind of struggling in the backline at the moment, since so many things are very accurate or quick kill time, like chargers like Heavy and Hydra and even Explo, right? So this is a good backline buff to try to maybe add some diversity to the current presence of chargers, mostly only. Splattershot Nova, the size of terrain area inked by shots has been increased by about 19%. This is no surprise whatsoever. It's the same thing that Aerospray had, only even more important for the weapon, because yeah, it doesn't paint too good. Now when you paint with this thing, it won't look like this. In the middle, it won't be a bunch of polka dots. It'll be maybe a little bit more like that. 19% is rather substantial, but I don't think it's enough to unless there are more buffs to the Splattershot Nova. I don't think this is actually enough to really properly bring it into the meta. Dynamo Roller, the damage rate reduction caused by distance has been adjusted. You can now cause 50 damage to 100 damage from further away than before. They increased the 150 damage ranges. You can be further away and do 100. Big Swig Roller. The minimum damage from horizontal slashes has increased from 30 to 35. Now this might not sound like a big change. Is this a big change? Is this a big enough change to be happy about? Big Swig players out there, are you overjoyed with this one? Really, no. I'm gonna say that that's probably not a huge change, but admittedly, if you're doing this, you don't get a kill. But with the new change, now you get a kill. It's 105 damage. So cool. Bamboozler 14 MK1 reduced ink consumption by about 17%. That is. Are we reverting right back to what it was in Splatoon 2? 14 shots? It gets 14 shots now? I think that's what it had in Splatoon 2, no? Before the last nerf to it, when it nerfed it from 14, I think, to 10 shots. That's pretty good. I don't feel like it struggles for ink consumption at the moment, to be very honest, but it should make it a little bit more viable. Nautilus 17 increased firing duration by about 15%. This is pretty big. That's actually pretty big. Let's do another test. A little demonstration, shall we? We're bringing back not meta. Bringing Nautilus into the fold is a good thing for the meta overall, because I think midline needs to have a greater impact than it has at the moment. Right now it feels like it's pretty backline and frontline oriented. Midline doesn't feel like it has much impact at all, outside of machine. So what are we thinking? 1, 2... 15% of 2 seconds, that's 0.2 of a second, so am I doing my math right? 0.2 of a second. 15% of 1 second is 10 frames, 20 frames, 20 frames, 20 frames, 20 frames. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Sloshing machine. Increased ink consumption by about 10%. That will be a good nerf. I don't think it will be enough of a nerf. If you have really good painters from, I don't know, a weapon that is not currently present here, like a Splash-o-matic, for example, then you don't really need to worry too much about your ink consumption. Angle Shooter, in terms of sub-weapons, this is the only one getting any changes. Angle Shooter, damage has been increased from 30 to 35. The radius of ink coverage when striking terrain on opponents has been roughly double. When you do your Angle Shooter, and you fire it out there, and it hits this, it'll be roughly doubled, which means if someone does get hit by that, it should mark them a lot. It should help to get them stuck in ink a lot more successfully. Not a huge change, but anything that's positive for the least usable sub-weapon, or at least what feels like the least usable sub-weapon, should be good. Specifications for some special weapons have changed as well. Ooh, we got some... I see how chunky that crab tank one is. I see how chunky that crab tank one is. Tacticaler's quick respawn and special saver will no longer be negated by gear abilities, respawn, punisher, and haunt. I'm going to tell you right now, that makes me happy. It doesn't make a huge change overall, but I think the bigger reason for running respawn punisher is to punish people running QR, not to punish Tacticaler, because that feels like you have one ability that can... You have two abilities, haunt and respawn punisher, that can almost entirely negate Tacticaler. So Tacticaler just wouldn't get usage as long as these abilities countered it. So that's a good overall change to that, I must say. Even though it probably won't make my life a whole lot easier as a backliner, I think this is a healthy change for the game. Reef Slider adjusted the amount of time for the invulnerability window, which occurs after exploding until you are able to move, to about 28 out of 60 frames. So this is almost a half a second. I think it's going to be pretty similar to Booyah Bomb. It'll probably be more similar to the kind of invincibility frames that you have once you land from a Booyah Bomb. It is what I'm expecting it to be. Triple Link Strike. Increase the radius of the area damage by about 10%. At the moment, the radius is not very good for damage. Like, you can kind of be standing inside of it and not take a whole lot of damage. I would imagine that this change will overall make the visual representation of what you're seeing on screen if someone's standing inside. Triple Link Strike. They will be getting more affected by the damage than it had been before. So basically just the visuals will line up now. People can't stand inside of a Triple Link Strike and look like they should be getting absolutely demolished and not get absolutely demolished, especially now that they have increased the damage inflicted by about 50%, which that's a lot of damage.
No, that's a lot of damage.
I feel like this will eventually get a nerf, although this is a maybe intentional nerf to Crab Tank, indirect as it may be, but we're about to see the direct nerfs as well. Crab Tank shortened the duration of the Crab Tank when not using the special power-up gear ability from about 9 seconds to about 8 seconds. Good, they nerfed duration by 1 second. Increased the extension rate of the duration of the Crab Tank when using the special power-up gear ability. As a result of these changes, the duration of the Crab Tank when maximized use of special power-up gear ability remains the same as before. This right here says to me that if you invest in special power-up, you can still have a long Crab Tank. More gear dependent. It is more gear dependent. I do think this this Crab Tank nerf is pretty underwhelming. Crab Tank is going to continue to be, unless... What the heck, man? It's not here? It's not here. It's not here. It's not here? This guy right here? This guy? With their burst bombs and their crab tanks and their 200... That guy didn't get a nerf?
Because I've had enough of this dude.
Splattershot and Hero Shot replica. You get your Trizuka at 10 points less. 52 gal. What is happening? 52 gal, 200 to 190. I don't know about you. They must not know about Twig, who is #1 on 3 categories of the X-Rank leaderboard in Tentatek Division, with a 52 gal for all of them, and only 0.5 points off of being #1 in all 4 as well, by the way, for zones. Don't know that they needed to get the Killer Whale any quicker, but sure. 96 gal gets its Ink Vac 10 points quicker. Splattershot Pro gets its Crab Tank 10 points quicker. Splattershot Nova gets its Killer Whale 10 points quicker. Splat Dualies get their Crab Tank 10 points quicker. Custom Splattershot Jr. gets its Wave Breaker 10 points slower. Slosh Machine gets its Booyah Bomb 10 points slower. Splatana Wiper gets its Stamper, or sorry, its Ultra Stamp 10 points slower. I gotta be honest, I'm confused. Because as you see right here, the Slosh Machine now has 10% worse ink consumption. And Slosh Machine also doesn't get its Booyah Bomb as quickly. Splash-o-matic Crab Tank gets its Crab Tank just as quickly. It didn't have its points reduced. In fact, the only thing that changed really is that suddenly you can get your Crab Tank quicker with other weapons like the Splattershot Pro and the Splat Dualies. which I think these, out of the other crab tank weapons, these two were the most used, whereas L3 wasn't particularly used. So I'm a little bit surprised not to see that included in here. Not disappointed entirely, because why have more crab tanks out there when it's already so good? But why is this nerf so heavily focused on machine and not also equally focused on Splash-o-matic? I don't understand. Like, I get that it's all indirect. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of indirect nerfs to Splash. Splattershot and Hero Shot become a little bit more viable. 52 Gal becomes a little more viable. Splattershot Pro and Splattershot Nova and Splat Dualies and Custom Splattershot Junior didn't become more viable. But these all became a little bit more viable. And they're kind of, with the exception of 96 and the Splattershot Pro, direct competition for the Splash. Except for the bigger problem that it's not a matter of, oh, I'm playing Splash-o-matic because I don't think these are viable enough. It's, I'm playing Splash-o-matic because it is far and away the best weapon in the game. It has the best special that really didn't get nerfed all that much. It has one of the best sub-weapons, Burst Bomb, which I don't think will ever get nerfed. And it didn't have any main abilities changed. It didn't have its point gauge changed. It's confusing. I'm at a loss. Anyway, Ninja Squid, for what it's worth. Ink Splash will no longer be invisible for half a second immediately after transforming into kid form. Okay, well this is good, right? Because I've talked about this before in Splatoon 2. If you use Ninja Squid, you almost get iframes when you're going in and out of ink, right? Like, you can pop up out of the ink, and there is no transition from going from squid form to kid form, as they've put it here. You wouldn't be able to track them. You wouldn't be able to tell exactly where they were until they were fully emerged from their ink, and at that point they're already firing their weapon. So that is a good change overall. Using the gear ability Swim Speed up at the same time will no longer result in one of those abilities being cancelled, while using Ninja Squid Swim Speed will continue to be reduced by a fixed amount. So does this make it faster or slower? I need a basic answer. Is this faster or slower? If you have the same, it makes it faster? Why did they have it slower? So slower? I think it's a buff? Okay, we can't tell. No one can tell. I don't know, actually. I don't know. My brain hurts too, James Bunny. Let's wait and figure out what this means after. Regarding changes to Ninja Squid, while mitigating the issue where players would lose sight of each other when shooting at each other from a relatively short distance, we're also intentionally maintaining the way to approach opponents with longer ranges. This does not make it slower. By the sound of this, it's saying we still want people to be able to get to backliners more easily. Now I'm in the camp that says this has made it faster. This update focuses on adjustments related to battles. A lot of the adjustments to main weapons were made to lessen the impact of some of the weapons from Splatoon 2, where the increased performance of the gear ability was negated in Splatoon 3. I think what this means is, now that main power-up is gone, there are things that they are reverting that no longer need to be in place because main power-up is no longer there. If I'm going to be critical, wouldn't you make that a change earlier and also adjust the weapon pool that is currently succeeding a little more heavily, rather than just reverting things that were stronger in Splatoon 2 because of main power-up, aka damage up? Just asking the question. Anyway, this patch blows either. Don't get me wrong. I forget who said it. Sorry, it was so long ago. A lot of these things are steps in the right direction. I don't think any of this goes quite as far as it should, with the exception of Sloshing Machine, which again, I think the ink consumption increase, and the points increase for Booyah Bomb. Those are good changes, but those aren't really the main issue with the weapon. The main issue with the weapon is that its hitbox is gigantic. It has too large of a hitbox. It's too favorable to the user. You can aim in someone's general direction and get 38 damage. It's not necessarily that, oh, I'm running out of ink all the time, and now I'm ineffective, or oh, I'm 10 points more for a Booyah Bomb, I'm ineffective. It's, I'm a little less effective, but the things that really make me disgustingly good are still just as much in place. And of course, that's just the Sloshing Machine. That's not to say anything about the Splash-o-matic other than its crab tank now lasting 1 second shorter, which is still 8 seconds is a long time. Well, here's Praging for a Splash nerf then, and an actual Crab Tank nerf then. Because I think we have 6 more weeks of winter, my friends. Crab Tank is going nowhere. There might be a slight decrease in Splash-o-matic usage, but the only reason that will happen is because of this. I think this is the only... This is a greater nerf to Crab Tank than this is.